Alright, so another week of life, another week of Married at First Sight. We are up to week 9. Now, special note, this week's recap is literally focusing on just one episode because the airing schedule has now changed. So the only actual episode this week is another dinner party. That's right, we had a dinner party the other day, then a commitment ceremony, and then for some reason they're just like, fuck it, another dinner party, let's go, more drama. And I genuinely think the producers were like, fuck it, we're gonna change everything and give them another dinner party just because Jono and Lauren's cheating scandal was just so juicy. So let's get into it all. Now, before we get to Jono and Lauren's cheating scandal, which we'll do a whole section on, we're going to talk about the other couples quickly. So part of this episode is the honesty box gets passed around. For those who aren't familiar, the honesty box is the second most evil box next to the one from Dune. But basically, it's a box that gets passed around to all the couples with all these super specific incriminating questions. For example, if one of the partners has a history of cheating, all the questions will be like, can you really trust him given his past? And the honesty box this season does not disappoint. For example, with Tim and Sara, if you've been keeping up with my recaps, you will know why these questions are so pointed. But all of the questions like, do you think Sara's really over her ex? Do you think you can trust Sara? Have you forgiven Sara? Just over and over again. And then the ones about Tim are like really gentle and kind. Honestly, they get through that really well. Tim actually seems like he loves Sara, and Sara actually seems really into Tim. So you know what? Like, whatever. Was she the absolute worst at the start of the season? Yes, but weirdly enough, I'm actually buying her shit. I am actually buying the fact that this whole cheating scandal brought them closer. As much as it pains me to say, I'm sitting there watching them going, this is kind of one of the better couples now.
I definitely feel like I can trust her again. She's come to me and apologized, and I can see that she's putting in an effort. Sara and I are in a really good place right now.
Next, we have Tor and Jack's honesty box. Jack is just fucking weird. Can I just say, all his answers, he's still on this like super red pill shit. Like, he's just like, yeah, do you love me? Like, that's exactly what I wanted. And like, yeah, we finally had sex and sealed the deal, and she's just like really committed to me now. It's like awesome. Like, she loves me. I've got her forever. Have you ever loved someone? He literally goes to her like, have you ever been in love? And she goes, no. And he goes, well, it had to happen eventually, and I knew it'd be me. And it's like, dude, drop it. You're a fucking idiot. Look at your hair. Look at your teeth. Like, what's he talking about?
Are you falling in love with me?
Look, I'm not in love with you. But I could be falling, yeah.
I could be, it's not, I am.
It's so painful to watch, and we're like 8 weeks in and he's still acting like this weird Machiavellian like supervillain. It's so strange. Next we have one of the most uncomfortable moments in Married at First Sight I've seen in like a while, Jade and Ridge. Now, Jade and Ridge are actually like the golden couple of this experiment. They're doing really well. Jade is a single mother whose previous partner, her baby daddy, cheated on her while she was pregnant with his child and like ran off. So obviously she has a lot of things she needs to work through, and she's looking for a really reliable partner. She's been paired with Ridge, who can have a very juvenile, boyish sense of humor. However, when it comes to it, he's a really great guy. He's really sweet, really emotionally intelligent. And out of all the men this season, next to Tim, he's probably the most wise and most like in touch with his emotions and just like the most normal, well-adjusted dude. But boy, do we have an awkward fucking moment here. So basically Jade's answering one of the questions. I assume it's like, are you falling for Ridge? And she goes on this speech about like how in love with him she is and how she's falling for him and how he swept her off her feet and like everything she could have won from this experiment he's giving her. And then he basically like chips in and goes, boys, I'm him, I've done it. And she just like snaps it at him and scolds him. And it was one of the most uncomfortable moments of like maths viewing I've had. Like the people I was watching with, we were all like, we don't know what to do with this energy. Like no one was laughing, no one was like angry. It was just like, oh my God, like that was rough.
Describe how you feel about me.
I was not expecting to fall for someone so quick. You have done more than live up to the expectations. I feel like... Stop doing that! Sorry. I'm not going to say nice things if you do that!
Alright, sorry.
Do not pick the noisiest toy to play with. Just don't do it. You're being such a nuisance. You're being such a nuisance. So as I was saying, Ridge is like a really sweet dude and he gets absolutely steamrolled here. I guess what I was happy to see here is the whole table seems actually kind of appalled of what's just gone down. Like she embarrassed him and belittled him in front of the whole table for basically just being excited that she's in love with him.
I have no idea what he's thinking in those moments. Like I know he's trying to bring the fun, playful, joking side, but it's not the time.
Her reaction would have made total sense if he went, boys, guess who's getting his dick sucked tonight? This guy. But like, he literally just went, I'm him. I've done it. How good. And then you can tell he has like tears in his eyes afterwards. Like he's literally just been like shell shocked and told off, and his high has been ruined. I found this really uncomfortable to watch. And like, yes, okay, I get it. Like she has a child and she needs someone who's mature and dependable. And when he acts boyish, it kind of triggers her into thinking that like he isn't going to be the wise, strong man that she needs. However, consistently throughout the show, he has proved himself time and time again. Whenever it comes down to something serious, he verbalizes himself well. He gives very emotionally mature responses. So it's like, at what point do you just go, you know what? This is the person I'm dating and I'm going to have to let that slide. We've all had partners who do cringe shit, but you kind of have to keep it within a certain realm of like, okay, that's just them and that's their personality. And I think if Jade is continue going to date Ridge, it's going to go one of two ways. He's either going to keep doing what he's doing and she'll just snap and leave, or he's slowly going to become a shell of himself and all this humor is going to leave. Now, yes, could he tone it down a bit? Absolutely. The way he acted at their actual wedding day was totally whack. However, if he loses all his sense of humor, I think that's a shame, and I think his sparkle is being dulled. And on top of that, I think a lot of his humor would actually translate well into being a good parent. So I just found this moment really hard to watch and honestly kind of toxic. I feel like if it was Tim doing this to Lucinda, we would all be seen here having a massive discussion about like emotional abuse and like relationship tolerance. And I'm not going as far as to say that she is actually flat out abusive. However, it is kind of telling that she would act this way in front of everyone. I worry that she scolds him more seriously behind closed doors. But yeah, genuinely one of the most uncomfortable moments we've had in maths, at least for me. Like, I didn't know how to read it. It wasn't particularly funny. It was really actually kind of sad, and you could see him holding back tears. Jaden sucked with Eden the past episodes, and then Jaden says, I love you to Eden. Like, he love bombs her. And like, are we buying this shit? Look, I know he's a bit dumb. I don't think he's like intentionally calculating and manipulative. This is unintentionally manipulative. Like, he knows he almost lost Eden last episode, and now he's love bombing her is what's happening. And you know what? Like, if you're innocently love bombing, that's a bit of a better look, but he's love bombing nonetheless. That was weird. It didn't feel right given how they've been recently. So let's just get into it. So as we already know, Jono has been texting Ellie. Now, apparently he's been texting the husbands, the gay couple. Apparently he's been texting a few people, but like, honestly, yeah, he's been texting Ellie. And I like how the ladies described it this episode. They described it as the get to know you chat. He's basically been in get to know you chat mode, where it's just constant questions, constant talking, constant messages, basically one of those like text-based relationships. I am still of the opinion that they haven't sent anything sexually explicit or nudes, and it is just kind of that like emotional entanglement sort of cheating, where it's like, yes, you technically haven't done something that someone can circle and be like, see, you've cheated. However, the vibe of like romantic intention and like an actual steamy, intimate connection is kind of there. Now, the closest thing we get to a smoking gun with Jono and Ellie in terms of the text messages, when Lauren's going through the text messages, and boy, was that uncomfortable to watch. She gets his phone and just goes, and there's like hundreds of messages, and she goes, what have you guys been talking about? Do I even want to know? Big smoking gun she finds is basically an exchange between Jono and Ellie, where Jono goes, oh, I just had my 40th birthday. And then she goes, oh, really? Happy birthday. And he goes, yeah, where were you? ... Now, does that imply a bit of flirting? Absolutely. And all the girls talk about the fact that if they were saying it to a guy, that would be a flirt. And I was 100% in agreement. When Jono later has to defend himself, and he does a terrible job of defending himself, might I just add, this was the only point where I was like, oh, I actually kind of buy that one. Basically, he says, no, like I was saying, like, oh, where were you? You didn't hear the news? Like, yeah, it was my birthday. I kind of believe him. I just think his response was so quick. He articulated it so well. And compared to when he is actually gaslighting and lying throughout his defense later in the episode, this was one of the few moments where it actually felt like he was being genuine. Now, that doesn't excuse him. I'm just kind of saying that, like, I bought that specific moment. That was basically the only point I thought he kind of like got away with. So Jono and Lauren aren't happy with each other. Jono arrives and the whole group has been shit talking him, right? Totally fair enough. Jono then rocks up. Lauren gets the honesty box and just basically starts rapid fire murdering him. I love how evil the producers are, right? The questions are basically like, can you trust Jono? Can you see a future with Jono? Is there anything you'd change about Jono? And she obviously just goes, honesty would be nice. Cheating sucks, blah, blah. Like, she just starts absolutely pummeling him. And again, rightfully so. However, I'm really disappointed with Jono. And the reason I'm really disappointed with Jono is because up until this point, he's actually been one of the more emotionally mature husbands. He's been one of the more kind of like admirable, virtuous guys, and he just totally shits the bed in his defense here. The only defense he could have had is, hey, I didn't mean to start an intimate connection with Ellie, but I can see why it's bothering you, and reading back on it, clearly there is a connection forming there, and I should have ended this relationship before engaging in that. It kind of ran away from me. I kind of got swept up in it. Clearly I got carried away, and either you and I need to end or her and I need to end. Take ownership and be like, yeah, I did a shitty thing. But instead he doubles down and starts going like, oh, I actually haven't done anything wrong. Like, you can read the messages. And it's like, yeah, dude, but it's the vibe. It's like, yes, there isn't anything 100% where you've said, hey, Ellie, can we smash? Or, hey, Ellie, when the experiment's done, we're going to date. But it's like, it's the vibe, dude. It's like, why are you messaging her all day? And I genuinely think the best defense would have just been like, you know what? Yeah, she's really cool. And like, if you and I didn't work out, I was thinking that I'd approach her. Whatever, just own it, just own the shitty parts of it and be done with it. But instead he starts doing like Darvo shit, he starts gaslighting Lauren.
Me and Nira that...
You've messaged other people that have left. You've messaged them to the same extent, yeah?
Not to that 100 messages.
How do you know?
You actually haven't owned your shit. Jono, you have tried to deflect this whole time.
But here's what I think is happening. Lauren was really mean to Jono when the experiment started. She said she didn't like him. She didn't like how nice he was. She did not like him. She was mean to him at multiple turns for the first 2 to 3 weeks, like unreasonably so.
I just feel like, I don't know, you're too nice. I feel like I'm just gonna, I don't know, I feel like I'm gonna rip you apart and it's not gonna be good.
And at the same time, Ellie was in a relationship with Ben where Ben was treating her like absolute shit.
She just wants to be a mum. It's very common. Kids are very important for females, so I understand.
So I kind of get at that point if Ellie and Jono sort of start a connection, even just getting through their shitty relationships together. Even if you don't think it's right, you get how it starts. You know, I feel like Jono probably always knew in the back of his head him and Lauren weren't going to ever actually get married and be together forever. However, the issue gets more complicated there. While I can excuse some level of like emotional entanglement if he was planning on leaving the experiment, my big issue here is he starts putting effort back into Lauren instead of just pulling away from Lauren and eventually saying leave, and then at that point it's Lauren's fault if she keeps saying stay and keep him in the experiment while he's trying to pursue Ellie. What he does instead is actually start trying with Lauren, starts trying to impress Lauren's friends, starts sleeping with Lauren again. It's like, dude, if you're texting Ellie and clearly forming an emotional connection, which maybe he isn't ready to confront yet, maybe he's not being honest with himself, but it's like, if you're doing that, do not sleep with Lauren.
So on our home stays, when you initiated sex with me and we had a good home stay, what is the difference between then and now? Your values all of a sudden appeared in some goddamn epiphany.
Like, he clearly does not see Lauren as a forever partner. And at that point, you stop sleeping with them. You know that everyone on this show is there to get a forever partner. And honestly, as much as I hated Tim and the way he treated Lucinda, I actually admire Timothy at the end of the day for not sleeping with Lucinda, because he knew in the back of his head that he didn't see Lucinda as a forever partner. And as much as he wanted to make it work, he knew it wasn't going to. So sleeping with her would have been the wrong thing to do. And I actually disagree with Lucinda's dad's advice. I think Tim did the right thing by not sleeping with Lucinda, but Jono should not be sleeping with Lauren when he clearly is starting to form an emotional connection with Ellie. He should have just tried to leave. And that's my big thing here, is he just won't be honest. He just doesn't go, you know what, we were on the rocks and I started connecting with her and that wasn't right of me.
He's almost trying to throw me under the bus. You treat people like shit.
That's your opinion, which I don't care about anymore.
You don't care about my opinion?
No.
Jono's so cold tonight, isn't he? And dismissive and unfeeling about what's going on. There's not a sense that he's embarrassed at all or sheepish.
He's literally confronted at one point by Jack and Tori, who say, oh, well, apparently you said to Jack at the gym that you were into Ellie and you would date Ellie. And it's like, at that point, he should own it. He should be like, yeah, you know what? I did say that. Lauren, you were treating me badly and it isn't your fault what's happened now, but like, yeah, okay, I got caught up in something and I knew you and I weren't going to work and I'm sorry for how I've handled this. But he just keeps lying and gaslighting and being like, I've done nothing wrong and Lauren's treating me like shit and I hate her argument style, and he gets really ugly towards the end of it. Like, really gross, genuinely really gross. And I feel bad for Lauren here, I really do.
If I was matched with anyone else in this experiment, I feel like I would have had a much easier time, yes.
Oh.
Wow.
Easier time.
That's
Please.
a direct dig.
You're the fakest person I've ever met in my entire life. Honestly, you are a joke.
Bullshit, Lauren.
Enough. This is not going anywhere.
You're such a fake person. This is not how I wanted tonight to go. No.
I don't think Lauren liked Jono that much. I think she had moments where she's like, yeah, Jono's cool, and like, now we're having sex again, and this is a bit of fun. But I don't think she actually liked Jono that much either. She's just annoyed at her principal and obviously really hurt that she's been lied to and made to look like a fool. Can I just say though, Jack is so out of pocket here. Whenever someone does something wrong and it isn't Jack, Jack's just seen there with this shit-eating grin being like, see, I'm not the only one. It's actually really validating to like see other people getting told off. It's really good not to be in the firing line. And it's like, you have been a piece of shit every single week. That's not saying to be fucking proud of Jack. Like, what are you talking about? And then he has the audacity in this one to be like, yeah, it's really good to see Jono in the firing line because, you know, Jono didn't stand up for me. Jono didn't stand by me. It's like, actually, no, a big point of contention for Jono and his biggest fall from grace prior to the whole Ellie scandal was the fact that he defended you and stood up for you instead of standing up for Lauren like 4 to 5 weeks ago. Like, what are you talking about, Jack? He's actually been good to you. He's tried to obey the bro code that you so insist on.
I feel like last night I needed to be backed. I did feel like you didn't back me, and you had your chance. As a woman, you want your dude to step up and step in and like say, do not speak to her like that. But like, in that moment, you chose that your friendship with Jack was more important than me.
Yeah, Jack and Tori being smug about like relationships blowing up and falling apart is so fucking painful. And it gets worse because I think Jack and Tori are still together after the experiment. Like, what a fucking rip. But yeah, look, Jono, it was hard, all right? It was hard because I did like him. I really did like him. And I think he could have kind of got out of this if he went, yeah, you know what? I should have been more upfront with you about the issues we were having. I should have said that I really wasn't happy, but I just didn't want to throw that out there in case we had a chance. We don't have a chance. And yeah, I've become entangled with Ellie, but he couldn't just own it. He couldn't just own it. Instead, he starts acting like everyone else is the problem. Everyone's blowing up something that isn't there. And it's like, dude, you end up with Ellie. Like, he literally starts dating Ellie. They're together now.
It's like if you were matched with Ellie, like in all seriousness.
Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no?
If I was matched with anyone else in this experiment, I feel like I would have had a much easier time, yes.
So it's like, it would have been such a better look if he just went, yep, okay, clearly, you know what, at the time I didn't think it was emotional cheating, but like clearly I have been. You're right, like reading back the messages, I'm clearly into her. Sorry, Lauren, and I will leave the experiment. Rough watch. Absolutely rough watch. But can I just say, one of the best episodes in Married at First Sight, especially this season, but I've seen in a while. I was hooked every single second this episode was on. I was turning on the subtitles. I was like, guys, I want to hear this. This is awesome. Disappointed with Jono. And yeah, I'm not as mad as maybe everyone else about the actual texting part. I'm mad about how he handled himself. I'm not mad that Lauren and Jono aren't working out, even if it's Jono's fault at the end of the day, because like, I don't think they're ever going to work out. And I think him and Ellie are better suited. I do. That's a hot take, but like, yeah, they were. Lauren was treating him like shit. Jono's treated Lauren like shit. That relationship is done. I'm just really disappointed that he couldn't just be honest or even own his shit and just sit in it. Like, just cop it. Just sit there on the firing line. And you know what? Sara actually made a good point. Now, yeah, Sara is obviously throwing stones from a glass house. She literally was like cheating on Tim with her ex, but she's right. She did kind of own it. Now, yes, that required her to stand up to the table and say, hands up if you ever fucking cheated on your partner. But aside from that, eventually she did actually really own it. And I don't think I can see Jono doing the same thing because he's so hell-bent on owning the fact that he's a good guy. Thank you so much for watching this recap of Maths. I will be back for the wedding, for the final vows, and for the reunions. I've really enjoyed making this series. Please let me know what else you'd like me to talk about. Have a lovely day.